Alright people, I just want to make things absolutely explicitly clear before watching this video. This video is going to contain spoilers off of the 3rd episode of Season 8 of Game of Thrones. So all of you whom have not seen the episode yet, I highly encourage you to go ahead, watch it. If you don't have HBO Go, get it right now. Go over to your neighbor's place, watch it, and then come back over onto this video. Okay? We good? We clear? Are you guys sure? Because I want to make things absolutely sure that you're all good. We good? Alright. Arya Stark slam dunks Gendry Storm and then also kills the Night King. What the fuck?! Hey everybody, this is Atticus the Death Meddler, and yes, all good things must come to an end. And what do I mean by that? The fact that the final season of Game of Thrones has now dawned upon us all. And of course, this video is going to be mostly me talking about the last episode that all of us had went through, the horrific and the most horrific, terrifying, gut-wrenching, anxiety-driven episode, The Long Night, episode 3, last weekend. I'm mostly going to be talking about that. Now, it is no stranger, throughout this channel's history, I did talk about how my arch nemesis, the SJWs, were pissing, moaning, bitching, and complaining about Game of Thrones over the slightest of things. I remember my first Game of Thrones rant in which I talked about on how SJWs were flipping out about the scene where Ramsay Bolton raped Sansa Stark. And then my second video was on how I criticized Maisie Williams, saying, and then later on of that year in 2016, I made another rant in which a organization against sexual exploitation were making moves to, make a petition to ban Game of Thrones over sexual exploitation, which I thought it was bullshit. And then my last video up onto this video in which I criticized John Boyega, saying that Game of Thrones doesn't have any diversity when in fact it does have fucking diversity. You fucking jackass. As well as the Huffington Post saying that the sex scene between Missandei and Grey Worm was the only consensual sex scene of the entire show. Yeah, because Jon Snow and Ygritte weren't a thing amongst other characters like Robb Stark and his, girlfriends, as well as Sam Tarly and Ginny. I mean, you forgot about those characters. But onto this video, the end of my Game of Thrones rant series. I decided that I will close that book of my rant series of Game of Thrones, along with the end of the show, onto episode 3, The Long Night. It is no stranger that I always go watch every episode of Game of Thrones when a new season starts with my neighbors who are big Game of Thrones fans like myself. We always watch it every Sunday night, and it was, I will indeed say, last weekend when the three of us watched that episode, oh, Jesus Christ. All of us were like having anxiety attacks, and not to mention that I was, pre-gaming myself, just drinking, a lot of beer. And after going through all of that shit, and a few minutes thereafter, yeah, I threw up. It was too much to bear. But after I sobered up and I saw the discussion going on, I realized, yeah, this episode is poorly lit. The script writing was poorly written, and not to mention, it's just the entire battle strategy against the White Walkers was so fucking pathetic. Everyone just gave us this huge, humongous hype surrounding this huge episode where it was like the longest episode in TV history, the longest battle of the entire show, and then it was resulted into this. It was poorly lit. A lot of us couldn't see anything, even though I saw a good chunk of it. But what really got me super anal was just how they did the battle strategies, which I will get to later. But my god, like, for real. I mean, this episode, The Long Night, sunk to 75% at Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty much the lowest episode, the lowest ranking the show has ever got. And this is coming from the guy, the director who made this episode, Miguel Sapochnik, the same guy who directed Battle of the Bastards. Yeah, he directed that shit. I'm just gonna say this right now. The Revenant. The Revenant was shot with only natural lighting. Yet I could see it a lot better than The Long Night shots. Those were some of the things that I was super anal about, but I'll talk about that later with the battle strategies later on to this video. But there are some people that were super anal that Arya Stark, instead of Jon Snow, killed the Night King, as what I've said at the very intro of this video. Now, I will say this, I actually cheered for Arya slaying the Night King, because after seeing almost everyone die and get absolutely wrecked by the army of the dead, I was just like, make it stop, 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 please. I've had enough of this. I did not consent to any of this. And then Arya Stark becomes a trump card. Yes! Finally, it's over. But then a lot of my other friends were not really that satisfied over to the whole outcome and the climax of the battle. But then again, I'm not even that frustrated at all whatsoever, because, I mean, come on, Arya Stark's a lot more developed, and I've explained it a lot more onto my Captain Marvel rant. Bars. But then we get to the main reason why I am making a video onto this whole entire episode. Because the major reason why I have made this video was because I stumbled upon a couple articles, mostly onto this one onto Yahoo, saying that Game of Thrones always kills off its immigrant populations and it's a problem. But the other article was what really grabbed my attention off of the Daily Dot. And it goes like this. The biggest casualties at the Battle of Winterfell were people of color. The Dothraki and Unsullied deserved better. And I will keep on saying this until my last dying breath. The term people of color is insanely autistic as fuck. I hate it. I despise the term. I think it should just die. I just hate it. Like, people, anything of color, I really do not like it. I mean, I've shown this article to a couple of my friends who are supposed people of color, and they agree. They say this article is absolutely fucking stupid. Now, if you all do recall over here onto this episode, like as I said, onto the poor strategies of, the Battle of Winterfell, they brought out the Dothraki to charge blindly right into the front lines of the army of the dead, and they just die. They just die. And I remember watching that episode and going,
I'm in danger.
Well, we're fucked. And also the Unsullied being the phalanx of the huge army, the defending army. They pretty much took the brunt of it all while the rest of the forces retreated into Winterfell. And a lot of SJWs are getting really, really triggered and offended over this. And I took up all the tweets onto this article, and I will read them to you right now. And they're just like, as always, mwah, mwah, mwah. So, I'm gonna read them to you right now.
I've always felt like the Dothraki were portrayed like the white gaze version of indigenous peoples in Westeros, and damn did they prove me right tonight. Just got rid of them all in the first 10 minutes. Totally disposable.
Also, like, Dothraki really just got snuffed out with no fanfare. Are we gonna talk about that? No support? No nothing? Changing low-hurt flaming spitballs from afar.
Can we just take a moment to talk about how Danny's Brown Coalition was placed at the front of formation? The expectation for them not only to die first, but then hold the line for the Northern white people to retreat was fucked up, given the fact that they're all the outsiders.
Please know, I've noticed that all the brown and black soldiers died first. Dothraki and Unsullied. Lesson: don't march north to fight in white wars under any circumstance.
The handling of the Dothraki and Unsullied last night reminded me of why I hope the Game of Thrones producers never get around to actually making Confederate.
Did they? Really? Just kill up almost all the POC people in front lines of this battle and then turn them into zombies and then kill them all over again?
You could just see Grey Wolf ask himself, do I really want to die for these races like 5 times this episode?
And the shit just keeps going on and on and on and on and on. But I will indeed agree with this tweet right here. First of all, you thin out the hordes with ranged missiles. You start with arrows, trebuchets, and dragons. Sending out the cavalry to die just before you even employ ranged defenses, Yo, killing me with this. And I absolutely agree with that tweet. 100% right there. The strategy over that entire defense was just really piss poor. I could definitely agree that how they had the Dothraki just charge in there with no game plan, Leroy Jenkins their way right up into the front.
Alright, thumbs up. Ready, guys? Let's do this. Leroy Jenkins!
I mean, at least wait until, you know, the whites come in at full range and you have your fucking trebuchets and onagers just launching at them, as well as fucking volleys. Hell, you could even have the Dothraki charge at them, but also swing around by shooting missiles. I mean, do your fucking research. Look up, like, the Parthians, Scythians, the Mongols, the Huns, since, you know, the Dothraki were inspired by those horseman tribes and those horseman cultures and all that shit. Like, they did that on that one scene in episode 7 where Daenerys and her Dothraki go into that caravan of the Lannisters and shit. And I mean, like, God, it was just so bad. It's just so fucking bad right there. But I mean, from what I've seen with my research, they were trying to say that the genre of this episode was survival horror. So they had to make it like a huge, like, zombie army on steroids. And I guess, I mean, they wanted, I guess, like, you know, Miguel wanted, you know, the Army of the Dead to be super unstoppable and just terrifying, to give us all anxiety attacks, which it did work that well, but it's not gonna give you a pass when you have some really piss poor battle strategies and plans, which is why you have all these stupid dumb SJWs pissing and moaning about the Dothraki charging in, and thus the Unsullied just basically holding off the dead while the other, you know, the other forces retreat back into Winterfell. And I just gotta say this right now, the Unsullied, they were trained to do what they had to do. They had to stand their ground in order for these people to retreat back into Winterfell. That was their fucking job. They were tight-formed phalanx force. That's what they were assigned to do and shit. I mean, like, look up Greek armies, Roman armies, and how they do shield formations. That was their whole thing, and they were capable of doing that. They were trained, even though, yeah, they were slave soldiers and stuff, that's what they were trained to do and all that other stuff. But yeah, like, if you have a very shitty battle strategy plan, your entire, force is just gonna fall bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. And yeah, it was horrible. I mean, I'm not agreeing with, all the people saying it because, people of color and shit. I'm just saying I really was not a fan of the episode because of just the really shitty strategies and just the really stupid choices that Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen did. It was bad. I also really want to point out one thing. How the fuck is Ghost still alive after seeing the premiere of the next episode? That is the one question I really need to know now. Like, how the fuck did he survive that? But, that's all I have to say right here. What are your thoughts on to episode 3, The Long Night? Did you like it or did you dislike it? Leave it down on the comments below. So, yeah, I can't believe that this is the climactic end to all of my Game of Thrones rants. And, yeah, like, it's gonna be really weird that Game of Thrones will be, ending soon. It's weird and it's also very sad. So without further ado, ladies and gents, I am Atticus the Death Miller. Hope you liked this video. Subscribe to my channel. Links are down in the description below. Keep it metal. And Vala Mogulis.